right, good morning. Thank you, Bradford. This is the day to rejoice and be glad that we're living and we're expressing and we're experiencing all good in all life. So before I get started with the announcements and updating information, we have a brief commercial announcement. Brief commercial announcement.
You know, we interrupt this service for a special message from your Gourmets for God goddesses.
The following announcement has been approved for all audiences by the Gourmets for God Committee.
In a world where division is rampant, one fundraiser can bring people back together again, but it's going to take serious participation.
Your mission: one event donation, one date, many bidders. Gourmets for God can reunite us with friends and fellowship.
Only you can make it great. Sign up now to host an event of your very own creation. Hosts donate their time and delicious goodies while everyone enjoys some much-needed connection with community. In-person and virtual events are encouraged. Choose a date, choose a theme, get creative, make sure it involves food.
Plan a meal, a snack, a party, a class. Why not host a virtual trivia and treats night? Or a munch and crunch hike? Or a poolside barbecue? Your event can even coincide with your favorite holiday.
No event is too big. No event is too small. No cooking is even required.
We are collecting event donations now. Don't wait. Grab a form and fill it out online today at www.westwvcsl.com under announcements. Find more information on the website or in the newsletter. Gourmets for God. It's the only fundraiser you can eat.
And now it's time for a brief intermission. We are collecting event donations starting today, so get up and start planning your ideal gathering. We need your donation forms turned in no later than Sunday, September 26th. That gives you one more week to plan the best gathering ever. There's still plenty of time to come get your forms at home space before the show starts, but I suggest you wait until after.
That's right. If your foods are fresh and tasty and drinks satisfying and refreshing, it's all good, but it's not good to wait.
Let's all go to home space. Let's all go to home space. Let's all go to home space and grab ourselves a form. And now, on with the show. And don't forget to eat, drink, love.
All right, thank you. I'll just put my plug in now. So I'm actually doing two dinners. I hope I can do two more than one, but I'm doing two. I'm doing an Italian dinner and a Mexican dinner this year. So all is welcome. All right, so every Sunday we come together not only to get the announcements from our Gourmets from God, but also to remember our truth, that we're whole, perfect, and complete, just the way that we are. So we come together in fun, we come together in light, but we also come together in love. Right, love is what makes this world go around. So let's start with saying our vision statement together. So if you can say this with me. We are a loving, joy-filled community, honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. And so it is. So now if you just simply allow yourselves to just sit back, relax right where you are, right at home, open up your hearts and your minds for the Bradford's beautiful opening song and centering song, and allow ourselves to settle into the spiritual home that we call West Valley Center for Spiritual Living.
Oh, so just take a big, deep, cleansing breath.
I will make a quiet place within my mind. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
So here in the stillness, in this quiet place where the divine is easily heard, I know that that presence of peace and joy, happiness, harmony, wisdom, clarity, love, health, and so much more abounds in me and in each of us everywhere. That presence of the divine that is pure love is unstoppable and unshakable and unchangeable. It is always present. It always dwells in each of us. So as we go forward this day, this service is already a beautiful, exquisite, and loving idea in the mind of God. And if it is in the mind of God, it is so. The Bradfords, as always, lift us and open our hearts. And Reverend Karen's message is divinely guided so that we are lifted and shifted. Each of us has some specific thing or things that we can take in that allows this lifting to happen, allows more love to shine through. So with this sense of absolute knowing that the synchronicity of both love and law are at play, the only answer that can happen is yes. And so it is. So my reading today is from Melanie Beattie's book, The Language of Letting Go. The behavior we call acting as if can be powerful. Acting as if is a way to practice the positive. It's a tool to get unstuck. It's a tool we make a conscious decision to use. Acting as if helps us get past shaky ground into solid territory. The famous Henry Ford quote, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." Emphasis, how much attitude determines success or failure. Often acting as if we have let go of a feeling or an idea sets the stage for the idea to come into reality. We don't pretend we have enough money to cover a check. We don't pretend an undesirable condition doesn't exist. We use acting as if to set the stage for our new behaviors. We focus on positive behaviors until our feelings have the time to catch up. When acting as if, we don't have to do anything but allow the divine to express. She has this very simple prayer. God, show me the areas where acting as if could help set the stage for the reality I desire. Guide me as I use this powerful tool to create a better life. So imagine areas in your life where you could act as if God has already demonstrated your desires. So it is.
Gonna do a little reggae. When my world is not okay, when there's roadblocks in my way, when I feel so all alone, these words will bring me home. Let love lead the way. Let love lead the way. Oh, oh, oh. Let love lead the way. Let love lead the way. Now I want you to sing with me on the next chorus, okay? When we can't see eye to eye, no matter how we try, we can find our harmony if you sing along with me. Okay, are you ready? Let love lead the way. Yeah. Let love lead the way. Oh, oh, oh. Let love lead the way. Let love lead the way. In everything, love will be the gift I bring, to give and to receive, straight from the heart. Let love lead the way. Let me hear you now. Let love lead the way. Oh, oh, oh. Let love lead the way. Yes. Let love lead the way. Let love lead the way. Let love lead the way. Yeah.
Oh, that was great. That was really fun. You guys are actually dressed a little, well, she's dressed a little reggae today. Good morning. Good morning. How wonderful to see you all. Welcome. I'm seeing some old faces and some new faces, and that just makes our hearts really happy around here. We're feel overflowing with joy to have this opportunity where we can be in spiritual community, even if you're sitting at home on the sofa. How can I say it without using a naughty word? When you're annoyed by people or groups of people, how does that make you feel? It doesn't make us feel good. I mean, we all have had that, because there's so much you can be opposite now. We're so polarized. It's easy to have that now, easier than ever. So it's a good homework assignment. So notice that. Number 2, it says, then make a list of what could happen if you believe the opposite of that thought. So let's just play with that one. What's the, what did I say? Why are people so grumpy now? Or what's wrong? What's wrong with all the people today? What's right with all the people today? What's right? What's good? And literally, now you're pretending, rehearsing, taking that action. You're acting as if in your own mind. And now notice how that changes how you feel. And then number 3, rehearse that new thought. Rehearse it. Practice it. Do it again and again. Revisit it because you're right on top of something really, really valuable and good. So catch the dysfunctional thought. You got to notice first what would happen if I did the opposite of that and then rehearse that new idea, the behavior that goes with it, or just the thinking and the way it treats us. You know, somebody who does this really well and is kind of famous in the spiritual world. Anybody thinking what I'm thinking? Byron Katie. The work of Byron Katie, I'm convinced she was a cognitive behavior therapist probably before she had her spiritual conversion experience. Amazing story, and a really cool woman, and she has taken those steps that I just talked about from the sort of the scientific formula, and she simplified it. She says the first thing is you have a thought. It's one of those dysfunctional thoughts. You ask yourself, wait a minute, is that true? Second step, and you feel that. Is it true? I don't know. And here's what's interesting. You may catch yourself arguing. Why? Yes, I know it's true because I heard so-and-so say such and such, and you can defend it. You will argue to defend it. But then the second thing she says we should do is say, can I be absolutely sure it's true? And then the third step is, so if I believe it is absolutely true, how does that feel? How do I carry the weight of that in my experience? And how does that, if I believe that's true, then how do I react in the world? How do I show up in the world? And then finally you turn it around and she says, who would I be without that thought? Who would I be without that belief? Wow, that's a beautiful, big turnaround. What if we really could or would take this stuff out in the world with us this week? Take it home and use it at home. Right? What if we could really notice the way we show up everywhere we go and remember that we are always in choice? Our life would be quite different and probably more satisfying. I have a beautiful closing quote. Good thing I'm running out of words. From Dr. Ernest Holmes, his little book called Thoughts Are Things. You must be on guard as to what you allow to enter your mind, or what negative memories that arise from your past. When such thoughts are in any way contrary to our greatest good, they must be immediately discarded and then replaced with their opposites, ideas that affirm your good. Do you see the universal truth we have spoken to all morning? See the way this philosophy, this spiritual philosophy, was intentionally developed in order to pull golden threads of truth from all spiritual traditions into just one belief, not even a belief, one spiritual practice that we call the science of mind. That was Ernest Holmes' only goal, was to assimilate information. Synthesize. I think synthesize was the word he used. Am I right? Is it synthesize? No? So yeah, it's the same thing, right? Pull it all together. That's all he wanted to do, was pull it all together so that this would be something we could stand on with as little dogma as possible, though it does pop its little barking head sometimes. But that we could do this without dogma, without doctrine, and allow people to find their beautiful way of having the experience of the immediacy of communion with Spirit itself, and apply these principles in our lives so that we can live well. So be on guard. Find the thought, discard it, replace it, affirm your good, and act as if. That's what I wanted to say today. And still, there is more. We should pray. So get comfortable right where you are, whether you're at home, watching on a device, sitting in this sanctuary, earbuds piping in the sound and the words of this prayer. I simply know that right where you are, God is. Because we know that the presence of God is absolutely everywhere, never missing, never limited in any way, right where we are, right here in this room. And I feel the love of God stirring in the inner way. Something in the words of prayer that activate our memory of that presence of love within us, and I feel that love of God within me now. I feel it and name it the activity of life. This beautiful way we are awakened to the presence within, the sacredness within, that there is this sanctuary we carry with us everywhere we go and at all times. And I know that each person listening to the sound of my voice recognizes that same essence of love at the core of their being. And so we are unified in such a way that there is this great energetic of love bubbling through this room, rippling out the walls of this building, impacting the community in which this spiritual center sits. And from our homes, the same ripple effect is going out, so that not only are we uplifting our neighborhoods and the towns that we live in and the countries that we listen from, but we are doing a good work by adding this elevated consciousness into the consciousness of humanity. So together we pull this consciousness and we rise above the law of averages so that we can see the light, that we can recognize the truth, that we understand and realize that there is a healing impact in the way that we think and in the words that we use and in the choices that we make and the directions we go in our life. And so wherever there is a call for healing, if there is anything in the physical body that ails us, we know that this activated force of love within us is healing. It's doing the work that it automatically knows to do, and that we have put a little extra umph in it by demanding the perfection of our being is revealed. How wonderful to know that there is only one mind. It is the mind of God, and that mind is our mind now. And that Spirit itself lives and moves and has its being in each one of us. And as that is true for us, that has to be true for our loved ones as well. So all of that healing now spills out into the universe. We elevate the status of our loved ones so that there is healing, there is forgiveness, there is sweetness in our relationships. There is a flow of life in the energetic that is a healing, and there is a flow of abundance in every way. And everywhere we look in the universe, we see evidence of that abundance, of that healing effort of life, that insistence of life to continue. Change is necessary for the advancement of the soul, and so we rest in peace knowing that we are at the right place at the right time, and that this day is good because it is divinely ordained that it should be. So I just say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit, for all of these truths to be freshened in our minds. How good it is to know that this is the way that life works. Life is for us and supports us beautifully. I release these words into the law, knowing it is already done, and together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I love reflected shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Oh, thank you, Bradfords. We are grateful. Reverend Karen, I have to tell you that I am actually really grateful for your message today. So I'm actually getting ready to go on vacation, you guys, and I felt like the homework that she gave us, I'm going to be working on it for the next 2 weeks. It was it hit a spot for me. I don't know about you, but it definitely hit a spot for me. So the other thing I want to be grateful for is for the people online. I just want to let you guys know is that so we've been doing a lot of work with the Bradfords and with the music and everything else, and we bought a converter box or whatever, and so the sound that's coming through on the on Facebook Live is clear and crisp, and so we're making some improvements there. So we are continuing to just be grateful for all the wonderful things that are happening. So now is just a remembrance of the abundance of our life and the abundance of our community as we continue to evolve into greater expressions of life itself. So I want to remind everybody that we are still not passing an offering plate. Online, you can click the donate button. Everybody in the room, we have a black box in the back of the room, and we also have one in the bookstore that you can drop off your tithe, and we appreciate and love all your givings. So let's say the giving affirmation with me. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, oh, it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry.
That was a lot. I can't tell you how happy I am to be done with it. It goes all the way around. It's that circuitous nature of life. But when you're somebody like me who loves research, and then you accidentally stumble on all those connections, and you see it again and again. Yeah, it's a great big beautiful circle. So act as if. In 12-step, they say, fake it till you make it. So the bottom line is the quote that William James wrote that Bill W. loved was this quote. This is what gave him his big piece of understanding. Thought guides action, and truth learned in action, so your intentional thought, not random thought, but your intentional thought will guide intentional action, and the truth you learn from that action, once tested and proves, equals belief. Very useful formula, and one that we say all the time here. This is why it is called the science of mind. This is pure Ernest Holmes or science of mind. You got to test it out. You got to try it on for size. You got to see how it feels, and then you get the consequence of your testing that can bring you life-changing results. And once you know your life has been changed, you never go back. You can never go back. Here's a quote from Dr. Holmes that helps me see the way he fit this all together with that similar idea. Holmes said, mentally act and think as though the problem were only an argument trying to convince you that you don't know the answer. neutralize that argument, take it apart, thought by thought, until there is nothing left, or until you reach the realization that dissipates it. Right? It like smashes it into the nothingness from which it came. I love that idea. That quote came from this thing called You. So he's really saying if you notice you're arguing with some sort of problem in your mind, then take some time, dissect it thought by thought, clear the way, expose the problem or the situation to some light, to some divine light, the divine illumination. That's how I know when I'm being guided and directed. So I do the work to clear the way, and then I expect that clarity to be the divine illumination that's guiding me, and I always feel like I always know when I'm on track. So to act as if is imagining it in your mind. Beautiful reading, beautiful reading. We should probably publish that. That should probably be on the internet. It's the way we look at, we have some problem we need solved, or we're standing at the edge of some change that's creeping into our life and we're not sure we're happy about it. It's the way we can start to pretend or imagine or rehearse in our mind that it's already done and it's been done well, that we're successful or it feels right or it turned out good, whatever it is. Because when we do that, do not underestimate the power of this. When we do that, we are creating a new story for our very own life. In the realm of science, they tell us that positive rehearsal helps us just to get a little more comfortable with that impending change or facing that problem, because the more you rehearse it in your mind and the more you see the end in the beginning, as Neville would say. Did I say that right? The end in the beginning? Yeah. Then it sort of lowers our level of stress of the risk. There's always, anything new, it feels a little bit risky for us. And so it helps us get into that space of comfort. And I was thinking, I always think, I'm sorry it's not you, I always think of Ralph, who played the French horn with the San Francisco Symphony. Right, and he's an accomplished, and he's done some work with some famous people that he's blessed my husband with recordings where he's the part of the instrumental stuff in the background with famous people. It's so cool. But I've seen him play. He used to rehearse here for a while. He would rehearse here. And what I know is, when I think of a musician, but I know it's true of you guys too, it's the rehearsing that gets you, that grows your skill, right? Am I right? Yes. What could they say? That was a total setup. The more you do it, that you improve your skill. And it has to be true for voice as well, because you have done nothing but improve through the years, Miss Kathy. Yeah. Not that you never sucked. But yes, we love you, Rod. We love you, Rod. You get all the attention. Kathy gets almost no attention since she started bringing you. So yeah. But I was thinking about it that in another way too. I wanted you to be able to find something that you can kind of relate to. And a couple weeks ago, my youngest daughter, who lives nearby, brought us chicken tortilla soup that she made. She dropped it off at the house, and she went, I don't know if it's that good or not, but I made a big batch and it's more than I can have, so here, I want you guys to eat it. And so it was good, and she brought everything we needed to go with it, right? Even the cheese and the cilantro, and it was great. And then she called me later, or probably text, they never call, right? She texted me and said, I just don't think that was my best. I'm gonna make a fresh batch of tortilla soup for you. A week later, she comes back. Wow, it really was like really good chicken tortilla soup. And so I had to think of my mom. My mom used to always go, practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're always practicing, whether it's a skill that you want to improve on, but notice that there sometimes is what seems like a failure in the practice of it. But that's why we practice, so that we can then iron out the kinks before the performance or whatever. I also wanted to just say briefly this morning that it's important to, once in a while, we need to look at the sort of the subjective side of spirituality. And I don't talk about it very much, right, John? It's not my favorite topic. John Kruger is an expert on understanding spiritual subjectivity and what's that other word, John? There's another word you always say that goes with it. I can't think of it right now. Just put everybody on the spot this morning. You can do it, Sean. No, there are two things I want to say about subjectivity and thinking. And one is a powerful statement that comes from the teachings of Thomas Troward, a really big influence on Dr. Ernest Holmes for this teaching. And Troward used the term race consciousness, meaning that there's this cumulative collective consciousness of humanity where there seems to be an agreement on all kinds of things, and that those subjective thoughts aren't well thought out. They're just thoughts that exist because, like, the majority of the people have these thoughts every now and then they linger around and we bump into them. I think of it like a vibrational sort of level of acceptance that happens in our unaware state, right? But the minute we get conscious, the minute we choose to be intentional in this idea of what we're thinking about, we then can not be so influenced by what we're unaware of. So in other words, I'm not, that is not even my belief, but every now and then I'll bump into something or maybe I'll even respond in a conversation with somebody, and later I'll think, well, you don't believe that. Where did that come from? It comes from that collective consciousness, and the metaphysicians told us this is why we want to be really conscious and aware, so that so there's the Reverend Noli's she's probably trying to help me say all the proper words, but there's, when you're conscious, you're not under the influence of the subjective. You're directing your thoughts and not, just having it show up. And the other thing I wanted to mention about the subjective thinking is that our biases, right or wrong, all of our opinions and judgments and many of our beliefs also influence in that subjective, unaware way. We are influenced by what we think we believe at any given time. And so it's valuable for us to become aware of the kind of things we're thinking that aren't really the thoughts we want to think, so that we can reverse them. And this teaching is all about all of that. So we always want to concentrate on being open and thinking and rethinking and deciding and redeciding, because everything that outpictures in our life, or the way what we believe shows up in our experiences. That's what I'm trying to say. It's always reflected back to us, so our job is just to pay attention. Here's an old familiar quote that I'm going to keep repeating until we all know it by heart, I think, because I like it so well. Ernest Holmes again: to hold one's thoughts to the constructive, to that which endures, and to the truth. It may not be easy in a rapidly changing world, but to the one who attempts, much is guaranteed. So I've decided I'm going to shorten that. And what I'm going to say to you from now on out, I'm probably going to read the quote again a dozen times. But it's be loyal to your constructive thoughts. Be loyal to your constructive thoughts. And so somebody here is thinking, I can feel it. How do you know it's a constructive thought? Right? And I would say to you that you know. The way you know is by how you feel. And so if you don't feel the way you want to feel when you're thinking about something, then there's room for you to change that thought, to alter it even just a little bit till you get back to the way you want to feel. Is this how I want to feel? If the answer is no, then you can still work with the thought, right? You're not a victim to it. You're very powerful, and this stuff really works. I have a great quote from Yeats, the poet William Butler Yeats. As life goes on, we discover that certain thoughts either sustain us in defeat or they give us victory. certain thoughts, this is another way you'll know, a certain thought will take you this way, and a different thought will take you that way. So just make sure you're going in the direction you want to be going, and you will rise in confidence. Because remember, it's practice, practice, practice. Pay attention. I was thinking about, wouldn't it be cool if we could make a long list of all the thoughts we've had in the past that supported us in finding a new direction and in making a positive choice in some way. So pay attention. Be attentive to that this week as you move through your week. Even you, Rod. Are you participating, right? Are you notice like, oh, that thought supported this next thing I intend to do. That thought supported me in a really good positive change I was ready to make. So just recognize the thoughts that support you and use them, test them out, build a conviction for the way that all of this works when you put it all together. And so I wanted to take it just one step further to give you a little homework assignment, something more to think about this week. And because the more I played with Act As If, I realized, you know what we're talking here? This would go, wonder where William James would fit with this. Talk about full circle, here we go again. That cognitive behavior therapy is exactly what we're talking about here. In cognitive behavior work, they start by saying, recognize your automatic dysfunctional thoughts. You have some. Don't be looking like you don't. We all have some. We have some automatic, and I like that term dysfunctional because it's not bad or good. It's going to feel a little cumbersome because I don't know why today, but I had this idea that I wanted to give you an overview of sort of the historical aspects of New Thought, how that fits with this philosophy, the science of mind, the teachings of Dr. Ernest Holmes, and the teachings of unity and all the other spiritual traditions that fall under that umbrella of New Thought. And I want to touch on some of the primary terms we use because, I say things all the time like, in metaphysics, we think this way or that way, and then sometimes I'll get home and my husband will have listened to the talk and he'll go, I still don't understand what you mean when you say that. What is metaphysics, So I thought this would be a good day where I could tie it together I did some really fun research as I was preparing for the Roots class that's kind of ongoing, and so first of all, I would just say that metaphysics is the reason we use that term, and I don't think all ministers do, I don't think all New Thought ministers do, but you'll notice that I'm comfortable with that term. It's the way we blend the spiritual with the physical. That's all that means. It literally translates to beyond the physical. And it was actually a term that was coined, you guys have to quit doing that in front of me. The production team is working out something, I can see. And so the term metaphysics was actually coined way back by the classical philosophers, even before Jesus walked the earth. But what I can tell you is that most of the founders or the people that contributed to this idea of New Thought, which sort of I can see it back at the founding fathers of this country began to talk about deism. And they were breaking away from a traditional religion and looking for ways to be more inclusive, questioning things like hellfire and so much more. But then it sort of went into the transcendentalism periods, and then from there we really see the beginning of that term being used by lots of different deep thinkers. I just think they were all great thinkers is the way I put them together. I do want to qualify that it is not the same as New Age. New Age is a phrase that's kind of a catch-all. If you want to understand New Age better, you go to Barnes & Noble and you walk in the New Age section and you will see everything from extraterrestrial, UFO stuff to crystals and, Sasquatch, probably Sasquatch. Okay, I did talk about him recently on a Sunday morning. Fair game, thanks, Rod. But you know, like the crystal, the qualities of stones, and even science of mind books will show up in the New Age. So you'll find Emmett Fox. You know, it's just a catch-all for everything. It doesn't mean it's not what New Thought is. New Thought is not a formalized religion, but it's also a catch-all for faiths that believe that that we can use our minds to help heal our all of our situations, including our physical bodies. We believe that the mind is very powerful, that there's a power in the universe. It's greater than we are, as Holmes would say. We can use it. We believe, all the people in New Thought believe that thoughts can heal, and we stand on the spiritual connection of the miracles of Jesus that show up in the gospel. And yet we are open to almost any faith could be comfortable with the educational kind of message that we bring. So every minister in New Thought has his or her own sort of bias in languaging, and just as I have mine. So the founders of New Thought, I would say, are metaphysicians. They were metaphysicians. I believe I consider myself a metaphysician, but they didn't know they were creating New Thought. Think about it that way, that everybody was just kind of independently going, wow, did you hear about that lady that healed herself down the block there, or you know, a carriage ride away? Because it would have been pre-cars, definitely. But it's in the same way that Ralph Waldo Emerson he wasn't even sure that he was a transcendentalist, let alone would he realize that after he passed, he would be called the father of transcendentalism by many people. So we're just in it. We don't know it. It's not a real organized thing, but it certainly has roots in Jesus and Judaism as well as Christianity, and it also goes all the way back to the classical philosophers, Aristotle being, so that would have been 300 to 400 years before Jesus. Aristotle coined the term metaphysics. So let's come back to this idea of acting as if. I did it. Would you be surprised if I told you I Googled it to see if I could find out who said it first? Not too much, right? So the first actual formal indication that somebody used that term "act as if" came from Thomas Jefferson, except he used it quite a bit different than we use it. Thomas Jefferson is known to have said, "Act as if somebody's watching, and then you'll be choosy about how you act." Now, we have progressed through the years, though that kind of thinking would still fit comfortably in more traditional religious settings. But come around the time of Emerson started writing essays like Self-Reliance and saying, like, no, you got to think for yourself. You can't act like trying to please other people. And so we began to rethink those things. And you know what I can tell you about my own experience was early on as I was dabbling in New Thought, I came across a book by Terry Cole Whitaker. Some of you are going to know the title of this book because the title alone is really cool. What you think about me is none of my business. Right? So that's the opposite from the way Thomas Jefferson was saying, oh, you better care about what people think. And now that book was so liberating for me on my spiritual path, because certainly even our spiritual choices and the conversations we have with people who differ from us, we're careful, and especially, now it's not even religion, now it's politics. But we know that dance of being careful, and that we also know that you can't please people, that we do at some point, as we get spiritually, as we grow in our spiritual wisdom, I shall say, we get smarter at how we interact and how we connect with people. We know what to say and we know what not to say if we're blessed enough. That's right, some of us, not everybody. Thanks for the clarification there. All right, now here's where it's going to be a little hard to keep up with me, but I want to talk to you about William James, because William James is noted as the first person that ever said "act as if" in the context of the way we use it today. And they found it, and it's dated because they found it in a letter that William James wrote to his daughter Peg in the year 1900. And he told her to act as if what you do makes a difference, because it does. Right? And we then have taken that into thinking what you think about. Now, let me tell you a little bit about William James. He may or may not be familiar to you. It is my pleasure. He's one of my heroes, so it's my pleasure to talk about him this morning. He was someone who was considered a great philosopher. He was a spiritual philosopher. He wrote the book, the well-known book, I use it often, Varieties of Religious Experience. He was graduated from medical school, from Harvard's medical school, though he never used his MD to be a doctor. He did teach physiology later at Harvard. And he was really interested in psychology, but it wasn't well formed yet. William James graduated from Harvard in 1869, so psychology was kind of a new thinking at the time. And he became fascinated with it, and in fact is the first professor to ever teach a class in psychology, and that was at Harvard. So he has some interesting things, but he's directly connected to New Thought. And I didn't always know that. I think that's why I'm a little excited about it, because I've been interested in his work. But he has a direct connection back to Quimby. Now, Quimby is, sometimes we call him like the grandfather of New Thought. And Quimby was like one of the first and probably the most well-known person who got into mental healing. And he never published his work, but Horatio Dresser, after Quimby passed, Horatio Dresser took all of Quimby's notes, and we now have what they call the Quimby manuscripts. So Quimby is kind of the start for, wasn't New Thought yet. It was a little early to call it New Thought, but it was mental healing, and it was definitely science of mind. In fact, the founder of this teaching, Dr. Ernest Holmes, read the Quimby manuscripts, big old thick book. Do you have a copy, Reverend Noli? He read that once a year. He reported to us that it was so important to him to keep growing and understanding this in-depth work that he read it once a year. So Quimby, then there's Horatio Dresser and his parents who helped get Quimby's works published. But Horatio Dresser went to Harvard to study, and William James was one of his professors. Okay, so now you can start to see the connection. But more than that, this is the really fascinating part. William James, this great philosopher, Varieties of Religious Experiences, he's well known. His godfather was no other than Ralph Waldo Emerson. Is that a great story? I love that stuff. I love that. So you can see that how Science of Mind is woven in there, Ernest Holmes, and Unity. And Unity teaches the same, Quimby and Horatio Dresser. All of those names show up, including William James, and doesn't matter what source it is. We all go back to our roots. Okay, here's the next really interesting piece. You know Bill Wilson? Bill W., you probably know him as Bill W. You know what Bill W. did? He's the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. So Bill Wilson had a spiritual experience that was apparently really profound. And it changed his life, and he got sober really quickly. Right after that, somebody puts in his hands Varieties of Religious Experience by William James. Okay, Bill W., we're talking about Bill W. He reads it, and he realizes, in the way that William James has explained it, that he himself, Bill W., has had a conversion experience. And in that conversion experience, and in reading it and recognizing it, now starting to understand what happened to him when he was still newly sober, but he realized the concept of the higher power. He never drank again, and he really depended on that work. So much so, this is fascinating. The 12 steps, we hear the talk about the 12 steps. The first 3 steps of the 12 steps are pure William James, directly from William James, from the work that touched him, that touched Bill W. in that time. There are also stories. They haven't been documented, but I love a good legend, and I don't mind passing them along. There's also a legend, a story in our teaching that says there was a period of time where Bill W. and Ernest Holmes would sit in the coffee shop together and put their heads together and pass around these great spiritual ideas, and you can see that both of them impacted each other in where they were in their journeys. So Holmes not only read Quimby, Holmes studied William James, and then there's this link to Bill W. And Bill W. said that William James helped him understand his own experience so that he could articulate it, he could write about it, and he could create this well-known, successful program that we refer to now as Alcoholics Anonymous and all the other little groups that have spun out from that great work. After